Welcome back, or maybe it's hello. Maybe this is the first time you've caught up with us here. This is the second recording. That's why it's called Leading Through Crisis, the sequel. My name's Todd Kukan. You can see that in the upper right-hand corner. I've actually created kind of a new logo for myself, so I guess that's a benefit that's come through me in leading through a crisis. But it's great to have you. We had nearly 400 participants. Look this up, check us out, ask for the webinar through training at ntc.edu. So we're excited about that. Glad we made an impact. Hope you're coming back. Hope you shared this with some other folks. Let other people know about this if it brought some value to you. This is the first time, now the second time I've ever done a recording. So one person commented about reading the script a little bit. So I do kind of tend to go back to my script off and on, and hopefully that won't annoy you too much. If nothing else, just put a piece of paper over my picture and watch the slideshow. I'll do the best I can, but it's great to be in front of you. As we go through this leadership journey, take some notes. We had several people submit some of their ACT steps. We'll talk more about that. But write some notes. If you process the information, it takes it deeper into your conscious. If you just watch this, that's great. We want you to do that. We appreciate that. But if you take notes and interact with it, and then go back and review your notes, as I'll talk about at the end, all those different steps help you bring that inside of you, and hopefully will help you along your leadership journey. And again, I'll remind you at the end about ACT and our ACT steps. So this is actually a new slide. It may look like the same one as before, but again, stay healthy. Last time I shared that I don't want to seem to be insensitive with any of the remarks or comments I make. This obviously is a crisis, significant crisis impacting us in so many different ways. So I do want you to focus on staying healthy, and mental health is part of that health, not just physical health, but your mental health obviously as well. It's tough to do this. We're all in different situations than perhaps we're used to. We're putting a lot of stress on different parts of our economy. The healthcare field is feeling that effects as well. As I mentioned last time, I have a daughter who's in the health field, and we were talking a little bit about the other night about the challenges they're under and how the things change daily in terms of their protocols. So please do stay healthy. We don't know what the governor and the state and the federal government have in store for us, but whatever it is, they have our best interest in mind. So please respect that, and please do your best to stay healthy. Again, I want to make sure I thank John Maxwell, Mark Cole, Paul Martinelli, you see pictured over there on the right-hand side, all people who have helped me put this information together. And so I'm an independent certified speaker, coach, teacher, trainer for the John Maxwell team. As I mentioned last time, I've been doing this for 3 years, and my leadership journey has been incredible, and each step along the way has been incredible, including putting this presentation together for all of you, because truly leadership is a process. There are a few resources on here, and I imagine you're jotting quickly down some of these websites. If you go to John Maxwell Leadership Podcast.com, John Maxwell Leadership Podcast.com. I know it looks kind of strange having 3 L's in a row, but that's a free podcast that John does on a weekly basis that you can tap into and take advantage of, and share that with others as well. Also, if you go to johnmaxwellteam.com, John does a minute with Maxwell on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And then what he's been focusing on now are what he's calling his statements of strength. They are quotes from leaders throughout our world, both alive and those who have passed away. And he does a daily, usually it ends up being more than a minute, a couple minutes, but a little bit of a presentation on leadership. And there have been some great quotes that have come up. He's in the middle of that, and he had planned on doing it for 30 days. He's actually expanded it to 60 now. Also, in the lower left-hand corner, if you go to my site, toddkukan.com, no www, just toddkukan.com, there's actually a free gift on that page if you want to listen to another little session from John. So there's lots of free training opportunities, and at the end I'll talk more about some training opportunities that we hope to offer through NTC, maybe some more programs like this, maybe some live things. We'll see, but there's going to be a lot more opportunities for you through North Central Technical College. And I certainly appreciate the partnership and working with them. Again, that's training at ntc.edu. I do want to do a quick review from last time. We talked about leading through crisis. You can see leadership here. Tough to find a good graphic for this, because leadership, we're all leaders, so I think that's really important. But some people in a crisis tend to separate themselves. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But first of all, leadership is influence, influencing those around us, whether it's our family, friends, business associates, co-workers, neighbors, community leaders, those in our church. Leadership is truly influence. That was number one. Number two and three. Number two, everything rises and falls on leadership. Crisis uncovers and exaggerates poor leadership. I think we've probably seen that. And the fall can be fairly fast and hard. Good leaders offer steadiness. And in many cases, leaders will improve the situation. That's what leadership is all about, after all. Nobody wants a crisis, but there are those that will step up as part of a crisis or through a crisis. The third one is how we view things determines how we do things. We'll talk a lot about attitude today, but that's a big part of it. Others will follow your lead, whether they be your family, your work team, whatever the case might be. So you might as well view things in a positive way. Another thing we talked about, another section that we talked about last time was in order how to be a good leader. First of all, you need to put people first. That's critical in this environment. Leaders focusing on people first. We lead with service. We lead with love. We lead with adding value to others. Making sure that you educate yourself. And most importantly, educate what's under your control, or understand what's under your control and what isn't under your control. And educate yourself more about the things you can control. It's great to all the information that's coming out, but worry about or focus about those things that are under your control. Like right now, this presentation's under my control, and trying to put all these pieces together while I'm sitting here is a little bit of a challenge for me. But I've been trying to educate myself on it, and I've been trying to practice and do more. But make sure you educate yourself. Be flexible. John wrote a book I mentioned last time called Leadership. It's talking about leaders being adaptable, adjustable, changing. Again, this virtual webinar is another example of me being flexible and understanding how this works. Make sure you leverage your team. Every one of your team members, whether it be at home or work or church, in your backyard, they all bring a different and beneficial perspective. So make sure that you're leveraging your team. Utilize the strengths of your team. That will bring out your best. I sent this presentation out to a lot of my friends, a lot of people in my network, asking feedback from them. So trying to work in that vein and try to utilize the strengths of my team. Communicate judiciously. Say that 3 times fast. But what and how we communicate is so important. What and how we communicate. Pointing fingers right now, you're starting to see more of that in our state and federal government. That's not going to help. Communicate judiciously. Get away from that silly reply to all. I've gotten so many emails, and just focus on those people you need to focus on. There's a lot of particularly emails going out right now. Pick up the phone. People are picking up the phone less, but pick up the phone. I had a business leader do that the other night, or during the day, excuse me. He called me and we talked about his business, where they were at. Ended up on Friday night, I went to his business, had a great fish fry, bought 9 fish dinners, helped him out, but he helped me out by reaching out and giving me a call. And then finally, being authentic. Authenticity, as I said last time, is better than perfection. Saying I don't know is very valuable during this time. All right, so let's look at what's behind a crisis. All right, the first thing we talked about last time was a crisis is quite common. We talked about a number of them: the Y2K, anthrax, the Great Recession, the BP oil spill, a number of things. Let me give you Maxwell's definition of a crisis again, just in case you didn't get it last time. An intense time of difficulty requiring a decision that will be at a turning point. So it's kind of 3 pieces. It's an intense time of difficulty. We certainly understand that. Requiring a decision, that's what leadership is all about. And it's at a turning point. We're going to have several more turning points along the way. But that's really what about a crisis, the definition of a crisis. A crisis is distracting, and a crisis reveals what's inside of us. A crisis is distracting. It seems like fear is spreading faster than the virus. We're trying to control something that you can control, and as we're finding out that oftentimes it can lead to anxiety. That's where our mental health is so important. And leaders help people to get traction over distraction. I read to you last time that the piece from C.S. Lewis, he wrote in 1948 about living in an atomic age, and we will get through this. We'll get through this. A crisis reveals what's inside of us. Leaders forge through loss and failure because of what they have on the inside. And I talked about the rainbow. If you want a rainbow, you're going to need a storm first. So there will be a rainbow that comes out of this. Trust me. Wisdom comes from dealing with your mess. You can't learn this stuff from a textbook. You can prepare, you can have crisis plans, but you really can't learn this stuff from a textbook. You have to experience, you have to work through your mess. A crisis requires adaptability. A crisis is a case study in uncertainty, right? These are certainly uncertain times. We talked about coaches and their adaptability, having plans A, B, and C, making adjustments between innings or during half times. I've had to make adjustments to seeing my daughter in the healthcare industry and my parents. I've gotten a chance to see them both, but at safe distances. We took three fish dinners over to my girlfriend's house the other night and walked around the backyard, keeping our safe distance, yes, but trying to be adaptable. And a crisis is a time when someone steps up. And for you, for me, it's time to step up. Make yourself visibly present. I try to do more for myself in the coaching arena and doing more, listening to online webinars and doing more presentations like this, trying to grow. So from last time, there were a couple questions that came up. The first one you can see there. With that first one, I would say leadership principles are really important. To gather your footing, you need to work on your leadership principles. And you know what? The resources are there. Somewhere out there, the resources are there. So you have to find the best practices. That's what I've been trying to do for my full-time job and as I work on building this business and working on leadership with NTC. Be obsessed with it, right? Don't let anything get in your way. Be obsessed with it. We'll talk more about climbing uphill later. Who are the 5 people that are closest to you? Who are the people that you go to for advice and support? Maybe you need to look and review that. The resources are there. Now, in some cases, there's hard choices to make. Maybe with a business, you have to look at the possibility of a merger, right? But there are resources out there. You just need to really be obsessed in finding them. The second one, kind of a tough one there. The best way to get others empowered to help make change into positive fruition for the greater good of the whole community. That's a huge challenge for a lot of our leaders. And some of our leaders, unfortunately, are leading by their position, which is the lowest level of leadership. You can't change others unless you add value to others. So I would say that's one thing you need to do. When you're working with your leaders or other people, add value to them. And they may in turn see that in you as a role model, and maybe that'll change how they work the thing. Again, focus on best practices. Find other communities, other businesses, other organizations that are doing similar things, and get specific examples. Failure is okay. And I had to do that in a situation with the recovery team that I'm on. I really had a hard time. I was really struggling with the fact that they wanted to do this detailed factual survey. I said, there'll be a time for that, but let's find out how people feel, how people are changing, how people are helping themselves and helping others, rather than asking them to fill this quantitative survey. Let's look more at maybe some of the qualitative things we can do. There were several of you that submitted some of the ACT steps that you were working on. The first one is that maintain your daily schedule. I think that's great advice. Get up, get dressed, take breaks, have an end of your workday. It's tough, I know, being at home here. So what I try to do at the end of my workday is do some exercise. So it's a double benefit. It ends my workday, but the exercise obviously is good for me as well. So maintain your daily schedule. We talked some about attitude, your gratitude, being positive. It's in your control. You have choices. You can be negative, you can be positive. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move down through the presentation. Focus on physical distancing. I don't like that term, social distancing. We need each other socially, whether it's on a Zoom meeting or phone call. So practice physical distancing, that's fine, but don't practice social distancing. One person talked about how they created some WebEx open hours. Maybe that's something you do depending upon your business. Set up a time every day, every week, whatever the case might be, where people can check in and call in or get engaged with you in a different format. So come up with some different ideas. Use this crisis as a training ground. We've talked a lot about that. Learn from your failures, learn from your opportunities. Review your core values. As I said last time, my core values are optimism, trust, honesty, enthusiasm, and teamwork. First of all, you have to identify those, and if you need some help with that, we can take you through some exercises. But review your core values and rely on them, lean on your core values. And then use leadership to adapt to people in your circle. So the crisis and grieving, the parallels. I've done a little bit of research on this, kind of accidentally. There was a sad death in someone connected in my working life, and it was not related to COVID. It was just a really freak accident. So I kind of started feeling about, geez, grieving seems like a lot about the process we go through in a crisis. Of course, the baby in the bottom is shocked, and that will lead to acceptance. And along that way, there's an incredible journey. We go through shock, maybe denial at the beginning, right? Pain and anger, those are some of the things we're maybe at now. Into depression, our mental health, we have to be very concerned of our mental health. Eventually, we start recovering or getting out of it. Think about the footage that you see from a hurricane crisis and how when they interview people, the different stages you might see in that hurricane situation. Fortunately, I've never had to be or live through one of those or experience one of those. Then you get into reconstruction and acceptance. And acceptance is where this is life as it is, right? So you go through those stages. The challenge is everybody at the same time is at a different point on each of those. So right now, some people may still be in shock and pain. Some people may be working on reconstruction. I'm trying to focus on, in my life, on the reconstruction and recovery time. I think it's a more positive time. Again, there's a lot of sad things, bad things going on, but why not focus on what you can control on, and that's how we come out of this. So I thought it just was kind of something I'd point out. It doesn't really have to do with leading through a crisis, but there are some parallels between a crisis and grieving. So let's look at some of the advantages of a crisis, if there is such a thing, and I think there is. A crisis really changes the balance of risk and reward. During normal times, we enjoy where we are more so. We kind of stay put. If we stay put now, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, and we won't benefit from any of those rewards. The fear of failure oftentimes overrules any chance we take in our life for risk, and it can be an educated risk. We talk about educating yourself. So crisis makes us realize that we have to change. Isn't that a great picture? That just, don't stare at that too. It's like those pictures I used to have where you stare at them and all of a sudden this thing pops out. Anyway, focus. Crisis increases focus. We have competing and we have conflicting priorities. So how are we going to focus on those? And another thing that I think is really important, not only in a crisis, but lots of activity doesn't mean accomplishment. So what are you doing with your time? How are you prioritizing your time? And are you focusing on activity or are you focusing on achievement? Eliminate those things that really aren't totally essential in your life. You should be doing that anyway, but sometimes a crisis increases our focus. The nice to have versus the need to have. Focus on what is essential and everything else will fall aside. Identifying leaders. Change. You can't manage your way out of a crisis. You can't manage, you can lead your way out of a crisis. And if you look at the education world, they've made a lot of good choices. They're using online classes. They're teaching millions of kids and students, high school, college, elementary school. My grandson, my daughter are all being taught online. It's been around for a long time. We were aware of it. But now there's been I'd say an exponential increase in the use of online training. This is a good example right here. So we don't have to wait. Now, that will be interesting to see what comes out on the other side. How will students react to that, where they don't have to go back to college perhaps? They can stay in their home, right? They can stay in their hometown and go to college essentially. So what impact is that going to have? So we've seen another way to get education, and it's not necessarily better. I prefer the face-to-face, but it certainly is different. So this working from home, taking classes from home is certainly going to change our environment. A crisis causes us to make changes we'd never make if we didn't have to. It bumps us out of our comfort zone. So how are we going to make advantages out of adversity? Now I want to talk a little bit about, I want to challenge you to be one of the few who take these bad experiences and turn them into good ones, all right? I think you can be the one, we can be the ones to do that. And the fact you're listening in today is a good example of that. You're taking the time out of your day, you're taking the 30 minutes or however long this ends up being to carve out time to kind of help you figure out how to get through this crisis, how to be a leader. So the key is really is to be intentional. And the first one is with your personal time, your me time. So you have a lot more time now, right? There's a lot of cancellations. You don't have the kids' sports events if you have children or grandchildren. Your weekends, you're not traveling around to different events. Sadly so, but it is what it is. So figure out some ways in your personal time to upgrade yourselves. Are you reading books? Are you exercising? How are you making yourself better? Family time. We've all been in some ways forced into more time now than ever before for the same reason. Maybe you're watching movies, maybe you're playing games, maybe you're doing puzzles, maybe you're going for walks, whatever the case might be. Maybe you're sharing what I'm teaching here with your family. Maybe there's some elements of this that can help your family work through this. So we certainly have played a lot more games. We're playing Yahtzee and Rummy Cube, I think it's called, Uno, dominoes, a lot of different things. My grandson is practicing magic tricks now, so he's coming down on a regular basis and interrupting my quote unquote work to show me some new magic tricks. But take advantage of your family time and use it well. Okay, so this one's a little corny. Ketchup time, right? Not French fry ketchup, but sorry about that. I had to have a little insert a little bit fun. I'm cleaning my storage room. I'm trying to clean off my desk. I put it all on a chair right now, trying to get the cleaning off my desk. But do those things you want to catch up on. Maybe find things to donate. For me, it's Lent. I have a faith belief, so I'm getting one item every day for 40 days that I'm going to donate to charity when I'm done. That's what I'm going to give up, so to speak, for Lent. But use it for some catch up time. Talked about adding value time. By adding value to others, people need encouragement. Call somebody you haven't called, a friend, a coworker from years ago. Get on the phone. I know I can do a lot better job of that, but add value to others. Give a word of encouragement. When you're walking in the grocery store, say hi to people. You know, the other day I was shopping for some things, and people now are wearing masks, which is a great safety measure. But you know, say hi, smile behind your mask. Your eyes can smile, right? Your eyes can smile. So give people encouragement, add value. Faith time. Now, as I said, you know, I do have a faith, but faith can be what Martin Luther King Jr. is talking about right here. Develop that trust muscle. Express gratitude. Gratitude is a little bit harder to express in a crisis, but express that gratitude again. Do something for somebody else. Work on a particular part of your life that's related to faith. And I think this last one, well, I bumped ahead, but the last one is thinking time. When have you really taken time to think? Now, I know it's hard to concentrate on what I'm talking about, watching an elephant. We'll get to that. But how will this crisis make me better? Think about, how will I use this to help other people? What action will I take that'll improve my situation? Take some time, go into a room, a quiet place with a pad of paper and a pen, and just write stuff down. And I think you'll be amazed at what you come up with. Okay, so now let's move on to the elephant. Let's move on to the perspective principles, as I call them. Again, this kind of goes back to how we view things is how we do things. I love watching nature stuff. I love watching zoo stuff. And watching elephants climb out of riverbanks, which is what this elephant is doing. You can see his feet are a little bit, his hoofs are a little bit messy. But everything in life, everything worthwhile is uphill. And at the top of this hill, just like for the elephant, our dreams, our hopes, our aspirations, our ambitions. We need to climb it. And in a crisis, the hill gets even steeper. We're not entitled to winning. We're not entitled to that dream or that vision or that aspiration. So we have to work hard in climbing up the hill. Going up, we go uphill to our hopes. We go downhill to our habits. We need to break our habits so we can get up the hill. The elephant here, I'm sure, is learning new habits as it climbs up the hill. See how it's using its trunk, maybe something it hasn't done before. Nothing comes fast or easy. And just like leadership, going uphill is there's a process to it. What can I do to add value? I heard someone talking about, after this crisis, people think we're either going to snap back or we should blow the whole thing up. Right? Well, I don't think either one is right. We're not going to snap back to the way things were. It never happened that way before and won't now. And we really don't want to blow the whole thing up and start all over. So it's going to be somewhere in between. So let's figure that out by climbing uphill. And all we can really control is our personal decision. The only guarantee that tomorrow is going to be better is if you grow, if you take to heart some of the things that I've been talking about. So do you want to take adversity and make it an advantage? You want to take adversity and make it an advantage. That's really what we're talking about. There always is an answer. Now, my grandson, of course, he preaches that all the time. He's 8 and he has an answer for everything, as I'm sure your son or grandson or nephew or niece does. But I've really lived on the other side of yes. focusing on the other side. What are the answers? What's going to happen on that other side? We will find a way out. We will get through this. There is an answer. And if you think about focus on the aspect of there being an answer, you really become a victim. If you don't think there's an answer, if you throw your arms up in the air, then you really are the victim. So do you want to be the victor or the victim? John tells a story about his father who grew up in Georgetown, Ohio, very poor community. They were a very poor family, and the depression is hitting. People are waiting for food in line. They're standing in line waiting for food. John's father went out and helped people. One day he might go to a hardware store and say, "Hey, buddy, what do you need done? I'll do it. I'll do whatever you need. I'll do it for nothing." He'd work there for the whole day, and then at the end of the day, he would say, "Hey, now remember me. When you get a job, remember me." And he'd go around to different businesses and volunteer to help those different businesses and leave them that same message of "let me know." Well, guess what happened? John got a job quicker than anybody else because he was out there and there was an answer for him. His answer was going out and showing people his worth, and he knew that value would come. It was certainly a hard time, but he thought differently. And everybody was in the same place, right? The same crisis, but he managed to get through it because of different thinking. So there's always an answer out there. Adversity, allow adversity to help you discover who you really are. I know you can read, but it's fun for me to read those things too. So determine, who am I? Right? Adversity is going to move us. We need to be moved. We need to be moved to find our niche. Maybe I'm finding my niche right now. But think back to that 3 and 2 count I talked about last time, right? And how that's such a challenging time. Well, there's a story of this young kid in his backyard, and I don't know if you ever did this with a softball or a baseball, but you'd throw it to yourself. You'd throw it up in the air and try to hit the ball. And his family's watching him from inside, and he got up and he took this enormous swing, right, and whiffed on the ball. Got the ball, threw it up again, another enormous swing. He was still smiling though. He was still positive about it, right? It's coming up now, and it's his third time. He gets up, swings as hard as he can, buries himself into the ground, basically corkscrews himself into the ground. And his mother is watching, and she comes outside feeling kind of bad for him, and she goes, "Geez, Johnny, geez, Susie, I'm really sorry that you struck out. It's a tough time for you. You'll get better." He goes, "Mom, I didn't strike out." He said, "I'm the best pitcher in the world," right? So allow adversity to discover who you really are. Each year, each month, each day each hour can be your best. You've taken your personal time to be here with me today. So maybe this is helping you to discover who you are. Believe in your potential. Believe in your potential in who you are, and figure out what's your purpose. John says, a leader who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way is the type of leader that he wants to be around. A leader who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And it's all about you're being better and your best, right? So you do something. So the young kid in the backyard was the best pitcher, right? Not the best hitter, but the best pitcher. But that's now the new base. So now he or she has to figure out, how can I get better? And it's the same situation here. Right? We have to figure out, okay, we do our best today, but that's now the baseline for us to do better tomorrow. So what are you doing to be better? What are you doing to turn the best into being better? John's father gave a great lesson to John. He said, and I'm going to read it. If you believe in people, value people, and unconditionally love people, they will value you. So it's not about your position. It's about what you do. If you believe in people, value people, and unconditionally love people, they will value you in return. Next is to develop a positive life stance. And again, you can see the sign pointing in 2 different directions. Which turn are you going to make? I'm going to try to make the turn to the right. Right? So a consistent attitude influences our behavior. So here's a couple little nuggets. So we know life is filled with good and bad. Right? Life is filled with good and bad. And we can't really control the good or the bad sometimes. We can help it, but we don't necessarily can't control it. And some of the good and some of the bad is going to find you. That happens to us every day. And with a positive life stance, good and bad will become better. With a negative life stance, good and bad will get worse. So therefore, choose to have a positive life stance. It's your choice. A bad situation doesn't have to be all bad. So John tells us a story about he had an opportunity to get a private tour of the prison where Nelson Mandela stayed, and The best lesson he got out of that is you can't imprison greatness. But let me give you these 4 points, and I want to read them. What he reflected on, what he found to help him be better. Number 1, our surroundings need not control our spirit. So while Nelson Mandela was out with a sledgehammer breaking down the limestone rocks, when they had free time, they got together in this cave and talked about how are they going to change the world in South Africa. People who devalue us don't determine our value. So Nelson Mandela and all those people who suffered were being devalued, but that doesn't determine your value. Dreams can be birthed in the daily grind, and that's what Nelson Mandela did. Is he met and talked with folks when they get one of the few breaks they get while he was in prison. And in our brokenness, we can be made whole again by healing others or by adding value to others, as we like to say. Feed your faith, starve your fear. Again, faith doesn't have to be spiritual, but focus what you focus on really expands you. If you focus on fear, you will expand there. If you focus on faith, positive, spirit, whatever it is for you, that will expand. If you survey people now, what's troubling them? Actually, let me go back to a survey from 1992. In 1992, 39% of the people said their finances were troubling them. 16% said job, 12% said health. That was in 1992. Do you think it's a whole lot different now? I mean, really, we have our same fears in and out of crisis. So focus on feed the will to win. Don't feed the beast. Get rid of fear and the negative emotions. And speaking of emotions, realize that motions influence emotions. So if I feel, then I will. I'll take action. I'll master my emotion. What am I doing to turn negative emotions into positive actions, right? Take care. You can't wait for normal anymore. Normal's change. It changes every day. We've learned that. But there are a lot of opportunities to help you get control of your life. Some of those, as a starter, were the ones I gave you at the beginning from John. Of course, I have to promote a book of John's, right? Today Matters. It's a book he wrote, 12 daily practices to guarantee tomorrow's success. Adversity is always filled with uncertainty. If I can make today count, then I made a huge difference. If I can make this minute, this hour, this day count, I made a huge difference. The secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. I can't change what happened yesterday. I can't do anything about tomorrow. All I can do is focus on today. I can repair yesterday, but really I need to focus on today. So let me read something. John wrote a book called Make Today Count. As you can see, John writes books, or his books are interpreted in a variety of languages. Make Today Count was one of his first books. I want to read to you. Now, some of you are going to try to write all this down. Let me give you a secret at the end. So let me read what John says about Make Today Count. Just for today, I will choose and display the right attitudes. Just for today, I will determine and act on important priorities. Just for today, I will know and follow healthy guidelines. Stay healthy. Just for today, I will communicate and care with and for my family. Just for today, I will practice and develop good thinking. We've talked about that. Just for today, I will make and keep proper commitments. Just for today, I will earn and properly manage finances. Certainly have to be careful about that. Just for today, I will initiate and invest in solid relationships. Just for today, I will plan for and model generosity. Just for today, I will embrace and practice good values. Just for today, I will seek and experience improvements. Just for today, I will act on these decisions and practice these disciplines. It's all about discipline. And then one day, I will see the compounding results of a day well lived. And again, that was from the book that was from the book Make Today Count. Every day I'm either preparing or repairing. I don't know about the future, so just take care of today. The next principle, number 8, reflect instead of react to adversity. Reflect instead of react. It kind of gets back to that better, best point that I talk about. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We've probably heard that more than we care to. But how are you reflecting? So I have a 5-minute journal. It's actually a book, and there's a page for each day. And in the journal, I have to do 5 things every day. At the beginning of the day, I write down what I'm grateful for. I write down what would make today great. I write down my daily affirmations. I am whatever. At the end of the day, what are 3 amazing things that happened today? So I look back and I reflect on what I talked about earlier in the day and how could I have made today even better? And those last 2 are really tough, right? So I'm grateful for what would make today great and daily affirmations, daily I am statements. And then at the end of the day, 3 amazing things that happened and how could I have made today even better? Some days I have more than 3. And some days I have a list of things that how could I have made the day even better? And I'm sure some of you probably do journaling. It's the same sort of thing, which you really reflect on rather than reacting to your adversity. Let people know, I know what you're going through. What a great statement to make to somebody as they tell you about their situation. Rather than waiting to tell them about the greatest crisis in your life, listen and say, you know what? I really know what you're going through. I respect that. John was talking about it in a presentation. He once did a whole presentation on flops, failures, and fumbles. Right? He had heard some other presenters during the day. All they were talking about how great they were, how successful they were. And John said, you know what? I'm getting tired of hearing about all their success, right? Because all of us make flops, all of us make failures, all of us fumble the ball. So he did a whole presentation on it, got a standing ovation. So reflect on your flops, reflect on your failures, reflect on your fumbles. Success and failure go together. They're not opposites. Wisdom always comes out of crisis. Always look for the big picture. Beautiful shot here in that photograph, right? But look at the big picture there. Look at how much more beauty there is. So make sure you look for the big picture. There is always one. There's always a big picture. Except for one trifling exception, meaning me, the world is made of others, or that big picture. So focus on that big picture. Look for it. And we already know that adversity makes people stronger. You are stronger than you think, as this sign says. Power acts like a muscle, so make your muscles stronger. Use adversity to make it stronger. Strengthen our willpower muscles, right? Strengthen our willpower muscles right now. My best lessons were birthed in bad times. And if you think back on your life, if you wrote down all your flops, failures, and fumbles, might be something to do while you're thinking. You probably see that a lot of your best lessons were birthed in bad times. You think about the newspaper boy delivering the newspaper, right? The little kid riding around on his bike and throwing the newspaper out. We don't see that obviously as much as anymore, but if you think back to that particular time, smiling, you might see him, you give him an extra quarter or something, all excited. Well, I delivered newspapers when I was 53 years old because I was in a crisis situation between jobs. But that was a great lesson for me. And I think a lot of what I'm doing now has been birthed out of that lesson. So adversity certainly can help make you stronger. So now it's time to act on your notes. Time to act on your notes. So let's think about, when you go back through your notes again, place an A next to those things where you need to take some action. All right? The C, as we know, place a C next to the things that you need to stop doing and change. Stop doing and change. Think about some of the things you reflected on as I took you through this session. And then T, place a T next to the things you have to teach someone else. And that's really where we get into adding value. So action, change, and teach. Action, change, and teach. Change the best and make it better in your life. Review those notes. So you've listened, you've taken notes. Now you're going to take some time. Do it right away. Don't wait. Right after this, take 15 minutes, go through your notes, and then do something with that information, right? Change the motion to change your emotion. Get things in motion for yourself. So I challenge you, tell us what you need. Tell NTC. Again, training@ntc.edu. You can email me. My email has been across the bottom of these slides all the way through. If you want to text me, send a phone number, whatever the case might be. Reach out to a friend at NTC maybe you've been working with. These are a list of a whole bunch of different topics that we could certainly talk about. Some of those we may address down the road, do some more of these sessions. Let NTC know if you enjoy these. How could we improve them? How could I improve as a presenter? I tried to do better than I did the last time. I hope I didn't let you down. But these are some opportunities to help yourself, help others. Get a group of people together. Let's get on the phone. Let's get on Zoom. Let's talk about some opportunities to advance your leadership. So let us know what your thoughts are. Mostly, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the John Maxwell team. John Maxwell, thank you to NTC for helping put all these slides and the show together. It's been a great team effort. I wish you the best. Thank you. And as I always like to say, stay healthy.